Hello and welcome back to Azure Terraformer. Things are moving fast and hard in the licensing space with HashiCorp. They just dropped a new update to their FAQ, and since that's pretty much all I do here on this channel is read FAQs, I thought I should read this one and see if they've improved some of the clarity around some of the open questions that I had about the new changes to the BSL licensing. So without further ado, let's take a look. So Armon posted this on the 21st, that's a couple of days ago. We made it short and simple, which, allows people to, let their imaginations run wild, unfortunately, which I think, is part of the case there. But honestly, I think it is good to have some clarity around some of these issues. Internal use of HashiCorp products. One of the most common questions has been from users in the community asking if they can continue to use products for internal purposes. The answer is yes. We've added a specific FAQ item to explicitly answer this. The BSL license imposes no restrictions on internal use of our tooling. For example, running HashiCorp Terraform in a CI/CD tool for provisioning internal infrastructure or hosting a HashiCorp Vault instance in your internal organization is permitted. So this is a question of clarity. I think this comes down to the external audience question, which seemed pretty clear to me, but I could understand, like, if you're in a shared services org within an enterprise where you might not be sure, if your internal customers are, fall under that question, because there is probably, internal chargeback and things like that. I've seen a lot of IT shops, and a lot of big IT shops have kind of that shared services team that is a bit of a cost center, and they offer these services across the enterprise. And so this question, can I host HashiCorp products as a service internally to my organization? So basically, you are creating Vault as a service or Terraform as a service using your own internal scaffolding, but you're making it available to internal customers within your organizational boundary. And you are probably charging those internal customers for the service that you offer, but it's internal money. It's monopoly money, right? It's not somebody swipes a credit card and bam, they're using your service. So yes, the answer is yes. The terms of the BSL allow for all non-production and production usage, except for providing competitive offerings to third parties that embed or host our software. Hosting the products for your internal use of your organization is permitted. HashiCorp considers an organization as including all of its affiliates. Oh boy. So are we going to start to see like situations, like in places like Arkansas or someplace like that, where they have these rules where you can't imbibe alcohol unless you're a member of the club. And so basically people just like have a paper at the door where you sign your name and boom, you're a member of the club. You can now serve alcohol. I wonder if this affiliates thing is gonna become a problem or a loophole that people use. I don't know. It seems kind of murky. But that's the thing, is like the spirit of this is clear, but I mean, if people are always going to try and game the system, you know what I mean? So this means that one division can host a HashiCorp product for use by another internal division. I mean, that's what a rational human being, and a reasonable human being would interpret this as, right? But of course, there's people that are going to try and game any system that is ever devised by man. I think that's, the enforcement of that is, just going to be, the question there. Defining competitive offerings. Exciting. This is the one that there were quite a few points of clarity needed on. The BSL license was designed to be broadly permissive to allow the vast majority of community use cases. The narrow restriction is on using a HashiCorp product to compete directly with its corresponding commercial offerings. Terraform versus Terraform++. Vault versus Vault++. Basically, Terraform++ is what I'm calling these third parties that, took Terraform and basically created a Terraform Cloud competitive offering, or took Vault and created a Vault Enterprise competitive offering. Make it clear by permitting cross-competition. Okay. So using Vault to compete with Terraform. Okay, so if you are building like your own infrastructure as a service thing, and you want to use Vault, internally for secrets, then you're good with that. Or if you want to build like a Vault competitor and you want to use Terraform to provision it, but you're using all your own code, you're good. That was one of the questions that I had. So glad they added some clarity on that. Now we got all this clarity, and now we're just getting into the questions. So, what is a competitive offering under the license? A competitive offering is a product that is sold to third parties, including through paid support agreements that significantly overlaps the capabilities of HashiCorp commercial product. This definition would include hosting or embedding Terraform as part of a solution that is sold competitively against our commercial version. So, by contrast, products that are not sold or supported on a paid basis are always allowed under the HashiCorp BSL license. So if you don't sell that offering, it's not competitive. Makes sense. Moving on. What does the term embedded mean? Yes, this is a good one to clarify, because I saw quite a few comments about, we're good. This doesn't affect us because XYZ, like we're not embedding it, we're not hosting it. I think the term, the exact, you got to watch the words that people use. Words matter, right? People, I've noticed the folks were using words like, we don't embed any of Terraform's code within our solution, which would imply, one of their developers went out to the Terraform GitHub repo, snagged a bunch of Terraform code, and then copy-pasted it into their solution. I don't think anybody would do that. I think that's another Columbo moment, right? Nobody thinks you're doing that. What they think you're doing is you're taking the Terraform CLI and strapping a bunch of duct tape and baling wire around it, and then putting a REST API on top of it and a bunch of stuff, and then calling it your own, right? I mean, I don't think anybody is thinking you're copy pasting Terraform code into your APIs or anything like that. Which is why the term embedded is used specifically, because you're embedding the CLI program. That's the idea. So if I want to build a product that is competitive with HashiCorp, does that mean I'm now prevented from using HashiCorp tools under the BSL license? Okay. So this is like, are they going to curb stomp these competitors? That's the question, right? No. The BSL license does not prevent developers from using our tools to build competing products. For example, if someone built a product competitive with Vault, it would be permissible to deploy that product with Terraform. Oh, okay. So this is not what I was thinking. This was the cross-competitive offering. Similarly, if someone built a competitive product at Terraform, they could use Vault security. Okay, we've already talked about this. Would not allow hosting or embedding Terraform in order to compete with Terraform, or hosting or embedding Vault to compete with Vault. I think what they mean is Terraform Enterprise, Terraform Cloud, Vault Enterprise. Vault as a service, I don't even know if HashiCorp does that. I mainly use Terraform. What if HashiCorp releases a new product or feature in the future that makes my product competitive? If HashiCorp creates an offering in the future that is competitive with a product you are already offering in production, your continued use of the hosted or embedded HashiCorp product will not be considered a violation of the HashiCorp BSL license. Now this is kind of a tricky one. Like, I think this just comes down to, this is an extrapolation of the cross-competitive clause. Because if you're building product Z and Terraform has products X and Y, and your product Z is not using products X and Y, then when Terraform creates a competitive offering to your product Z, you're good. I see this as them trying to kind of get ahead of some of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's being like spiraled by certain folks about, oh, like, what about the future? You never know what could happen. You might compete with them and then you'd become the enemy and all that stuff. But honestly, like, I think the cross-compete clause is good enough, right? It's like, yeah, if you are building a thing and it doesn't use the thing that you're competing with, then you're good. So if I'm building, I don't know, like let's say, let's do it. Like if I'm a craft brewer, okay, and I make beer. Terraform, HashiCorp doesn't make beer. I can use Terraform to provision my beer stuff, right? To provision my beer selling service, right, of my craft brewery. If HashiCorp all of a sudden goes in the craft beer industry, right? I am now competing with HashiCorp in the craft beer brewing space, in the beer industry, but that doesn't affect my use of Terraform, right? So I think, it's still covered by the cross-competitive clause, the cross-compete clause, but I think it's really like a very focused argument towards that FUD about, oh, you never know what could happen in the future. Anyways, can I mix the BSL license code with code provided under a different license? Yes, you can, provided that each of the components keep their own license and you do not mix the BSL with strong copyleft license code such as GPL. With respect to some permissive licenses like Apache, you may also provide the whole program under BSL, but include a notice for the Apache portion. I am the author of an open source project that uses HashiCorp technology in a non-competitive way and uses Terraform, but not in for example, uses Terraform, but not in a production environment. If someone else uses my project to produce a competitive product or hosted service, i.e. starts selling my project as a SaaS solution, am I at risk of being considered competitive or violating the BSL? Do I need to track all the users of my project and report suspected infringing use? Only those who are actively embedding or hosting HashiCorp products in a competitive manner would be in violation of the license. So I think the answer is no. The violation would not extend to the project owner who is not doing so, hence you, and the project owner would have no obligation to monitor or report on how others are using their project. Reasonable, very logical. Like, again, I feel like because of all the FUD being spread, very irrational fears like this one are being like debated, fiercely. And it's like, no, that wouldn't ever happen. Take a chill pill. Consulting and professional services. I am aware that HashiCorp does have like a professional services group, kind of like MCS, or I think AWS even, like they've been growing their professional services. So, I would never have expected. Again, the cross-compete clause handles this, right? If you compete. And I guess there are some consulting companies that might feel like they are competing with the likes of like HashiCorp's professional services or AWS or Microsoft's, in some regard, because typically they're architects that come in that are, supporting, particular initiatives that use the whatever the relevant technologies are, and they help solution. That would be one headcount that wouldn't be in the contract with whatever that, services vendor had. So that could be potentially lost revenue, hence the competitive nature. Again, the cross-compete clause, I think, covers this in the sense that if you technically compete at the services layer, right? It doesn't mean you can't use the BSL licensed core technologies. Period. Can I continue to provide professional services around HashiCorp products? Yes, we have a large ecosystem of systems integrator partners that provide consulting and professional services to help users deploy, manage, operate our products for their internal use. The change to our license is not intended to deter partners from providing those services. We will continue to encourage that and support these types of system integrator partners. Instead, the BSL license simply prevents embedding, hosting, a little bit monotonous here. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like you have to understand somebody's motivation, right? To understand their intent. And if you pretend not to understand somebody's motivation, then it'll be very difficult to understand their intent. Frankly, these third-party services companies, professional services companies, I'm sure HashiCorp loves them, right? Because they help make the value case to the customer why they should use Terraform, why they should use HashiCorp products, what the benefit is to them. And part of selling the services deal is making that value case to the customer compelling enough that the customer wants to do the deal, to bring in the services work to get the job done, but then also bring in the technology. And that gives HashiCorp an opportunity to upsell, cross-sell their various commercialized offerings. Makes sense. HashiCorp has a clear incentive to encourage this type of activity, just like AWS and just like Azure. And that's why there's all sorts of programs where AWS and Azure and the hyperscalers try and help and encourage professional services partners to go do this type of activity because it spins meters, frankly. I'm a consultant who helps my customers run their infrastructure using HashiCorp tooling. Does HashiCorp consider me a competitor? Come on, man. For real? All non-production use of BSL licensed HashiCorp products is permitted. Assisting a customer with their own use of BSL licensed HashiCorp products for their production environment is also permitted. Embedding or hosting BSL licensed HashiCorp products in an offering to be made available to multiple we're back at this again. It's like, same. Yeah. In case we didn't get it the fifth time. There you go. So that's it. That's the update. There's some nice clarity around cross-compete. I feel like there was a little bit, captain redundancy on, some of these really irrational fear questions. Like, can I still be a consultant and sell professional services that use HashiCorp open source, like BSL, like core technology? Of course, yeah, please do. If people use my thing that is not a competitive offering to make a competitive offering, am I going to have to police the world? No, of course not, man. You're fine. HashiCorp's like, we'll get them. Don't worry, we'll get them. Oh yeah, and this one was also kind of captain redundant. Or Captain Obvious. It's like if they release something in the future that I currently that competes with me, but I use Terraform or Vault or whatever. Like, am I okay? Yes, because of the cross compete thing, right? Now, one thing that I was hoping to see is like if I want to build a competitive offering with HashiCorp, does that mean I'm prevented from using any HashiCorp tools? So what they haven't answered is, let's say I've been there, done that. I built a competitive thing. What are my options? Am I done? Or can we work out, some sort of license agreement where I pay you what you feel is fair, what I feel is fair? Can we come to terms and work out a deal where, you get what you feel like is, a reasonable amount of money for the value that I'm getting out of the core technology, which helps you to continue to develop the core technology, and which allows me to continue to operate my business. Didn't see that in here, which kind of leads me to believe that will be a case-by-case basis that they work out with those companies that are currently doing that. And, they just need to sit down and talk to HashiCorp about their specific case and, what the licensing agreement would look like to allow them to continue to do whatever they're doing. And I suspect that would probably, the pound of flesh, or hopefully it's not a pound of flesh. Hopefully there's some mutually beneficial agreement that can be made to allow these folks to continue to operate and to continue to give options to the community, but also to recognize that they are leveraging this core technology to compete with the mothership, right? Seems fair. I'm hopeful that these competitive offerings will sit down and will figure out a licensing agreement so they can continue to operate and don't have to fragment the community and don't have to fork, Terraform and all its providers. And that would just be insane. So I'm hoping that, HashiCorp will be reasonable with these people. I'm hoping these people will be reasonable with HashiCorp. And we all just find a way to get along. That's what I'm hoping for. Because, I hear the community, like the big knit, I understand there's people that use these, competitive offerings and they like them. They like them a lot. And they see value. I've played around with a few of them, haven't seen a lot of value. I feel like I do a pretty darn good job using Azure DevOps and GitHub Actions and stuff like that. It meets my needs. Running relatively large, stuff, relatively large teams, get the job done, right? But I can understand, some people see the value in that and they like it, so they want to keep it. So the question is, can you keep your Terraform ++? I think that's the last question that didn't show up in this FAQ is, I like my Terraform ++. Can I keep my Terraform ++? Right now, it looks like, whoever your Terraform ++ operator is, they just have to sit down and work out a deal case by case with HashiCorp to figure that out. And unfortunately, it seems like there's a lot of ostrich, head in the sand, kind of like nothing to see here. We're good, which I believe is a little bit of wishful thinking, in that you can just continue to use 1.55 forever, and it'll all be okay. Which I don't know how feasible that will be long term. And I think there's a little bit of it that's a little bit head in the sand. Hey, we're not an embedded or hosted solution. Nothing to see here. People can choose to do that. Probably won't work out well for them. If I were them, I I would, in good faith, sit down with HashiCorp and try and work something out. That's what I would try and do. But we'll see what happens. It's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting. So, anyways, stay calm, terraform on. That's it from me. This is the Azure Terraformer, signing off.